Issun Boshi, the 1-inch boy. A Japanese folktale. Audio and visuals brought to you by ThoughtNet Solutions. Long ago in ancient Japan, in a poor, small, quiet village, lived an older couple. They were childless and prayed every day at the local shrine for a child. One day, the woman prayed and said, "Please bring me a child. I have so much love in my heart. I'd give it all, even if they were only 1 inch tall." Soon after that prayer, the couple were with child, and once he was born, found that their baby boy was only 1 inch long. He never grew any taller than 1 inch as he grew older, but the couple loved him as if he were the size of the world. The boy grew with such confidence as his parents never held him back from learning and doing anything he set his mind to. He was always eager to help his parents in any way he could, despite his size, all while having large dreams of becoming a great warrior. Finally, the day came and the boy said, "I wish to go to the capital and build my future. I want to serve a noble lord." His parents were sad to see him go, but they raised him well and knew he was ready. Though his parents were poor, they still had 3 things to give him on his departure: a needle for a sword, a bowl for a boat, and a chopstick for an oar. With these, Issun Boshi set off, floating down the river in his bowl boat, bravely steering with his chopstick, waving goodbye to his parents. He had packed with him many days' worth of wrapped rice and beans, so he had a non-stop trip down the river to the capital and made great time. Once there, he walked through the city, weaving between people's feet, navigating cobble roads, and even hitchhiking small rides on the edge of baskets, carts, or animals without being noticed. Issun marveled at how the world just kept getting bigger and bigger. He finally came up to the first nobleman's house where guards were out front by the gate. They took no notice of Issun and his small size, just like the rest of the city. Issun waved his hands and shouted until the guards took notice. "I am Issun Boshi. I have come to prove my ability and loyalty to your great lord." The guards burst out laughing when they saw the size of this little man. "You want to prove your ability? What's your ability to float on the wind?" said one guard, but Issun just stood proudly and patiently. Every time the guards took another look at him, they began laughing harder, till Issun's face began to burn and tears welled. The young man finally yelled up to them again, "Please, sir, I would like to meet with the Lord and state my case." The guards decided to please their lord with such a humorous spectacle, so one of them brought him in. The lord and his family were just sitting for dinner when the guard came to tell them he had some entertainment for them. "Lord, I wanted to honor you with the presence of the mightiest warrior in the land," said the guard with a bow. The guard opened his hand and let Issun walk onto the dinner table. There was a pause. Then, an eruption of laughter from everyone except the Lord's oldest daughter, who looked very intrigued. "I heard he defeated a tengu, but it turned out to be just a housefly," said the guard with everyone laughing. "Maybe he'll climb a rokurokubi's neck and tickle her ear," said a servant, and more laughter erupted. Hey, I think he'd make an excellent toothpick for a Nua," said another servant. Most of the room was laughing, except the oldest daughter, and even the Lord was only smiling slightly at the spectacle. But he had been looking at Issun the whole time and found the way he carried himself was of respectful stature. Issun coughed and held up his hand. "I am called Issun Boshi. Though I am but an inch tall, I have the heart of a samurai. I have come to the capital to make a name for myself and to serve a great lord. Please grant me a chance to prove my loyalty and skill." And then he took a steady bow while the room was still laughing at him. The nobleman was surprisingly impressed with the young man's composure and introduction. "I admire your apparent dedication. I could always use another loyal set of eyes, and my daughter could use some company in her studies that was as harmless and loyal as you." So the nobleman decided that Issun could be his daughter's personal servant and companion, seeing Issun more as a novelty pet. The princess blushed and said, "Father, I think I have the perfect place he could stay." And she soon pulled out an old and exquisite dollhouse palace from a storage room. She carefully cleaned off all the dust herself, paying close detail on how she cleaned his new home as a way to show Issun respect. Issun's jaw dropped as he walked up to the front door of the dollhouse. He turned to the princess and bowed so low. "Most honorable princess, this is the most wonderful gift I have ever received. You are so kind. Thank you." Days went by, and Issun was found to be quite helpful and fearless. One day, he slayed a spider for the princess, who marveled at his bravery. On another day, Issun slipped between the floorboards and pulled out a gold coin he saw. He immediately took it to the nobleman, who marveled at Issun's honesty. And once, a servant pricked her finger and bled, and Issun took off his own jacket for her to stop the bleeding with. She marveled at his generosity. There was no task too small or large for the 1-inch boy to take on. Over time, he grew much favor with the Lord, and he became the most trusted companion of the princess. One fine day, the princess was preparing to visit a Buddhist temple for a cherry blossom viewing. To go with her were 2 guards, the guards whom Issun had first met at the gate. Issun sat upon the princess's shoulder, and they politely talked about the beauty of the temple they were visiting, while the guards in front spoke amongst themselves. The road to the temple went through a beautiful forest, but even the road had some narrow, shadowy sections. The group was passing through one of these narrow paths, and suddenly an unnatural darkness soon fell upon them. A great and horrible Oni demon appeared in front of the group on the path. The Oni's jaws drooled over the two guards who were frozen in fear. The demon towered over the two. The guards started backing away from the creature, and Issun Boshi shouted, "What are you doing? You outnumber him! Fight! You must protect the princess!" The two guards just fell to the ground in fear, scrambling away from the beast. The Oni laughed at their pathetic reaction. Issun pulled out his needle sword and pointed it at the Oni, saying, "You stay back, demon! Return to where you came!" The giant Oni looked around. "Who said that?" Issun jumped from the princess's shoulder and walked up to the Oni. "It is I, the 1-inch warrior Issun Boshi. I am not afraid of you, great evil Oni, for I have the heart of a samurai." "What a little bug you are." The Oni chuckled and went to lick Issun up in his mouth. But as the Oni came close, Issun heroically jumped at its face and started stabbing and swiping at his nose and his eye. The Oni cried out, "Oh, you little twerp!" And with a sudden snap of its jaws and a gulp, Issun was gone and down the monster's throat. The princess cried out and began weeping for her trusted and loyal friend. The guards were still frozen in fear, doing nothing to stop the Oni from approaching the princess, who couldn't even think of her own well-being at this point. The demon was so close that its breath blew the princess's hair every which way, and she stared it down bravely, waiting for it to end her, when suddenly the Oni grabbed its throat and began coughing and wheezing, and it reeled back onto the ground. Inside the demon, Issun had never stopped fighting. He was using his little needle to climb back out and stab and slash this horrible creature where it was most vulnerable. The Oni cried out, "What sort of powerful sorcery does this little monster have?" And the Oni gagged so hard that he threw up, and out came barely conscious Issun and a mysterious mallet. The Oni was so afraid of Issun that it cowered away into the forest. The princess picked up Issun in her hands and was not deterred in the slightest by the mess he was covered in. She was just so happy to see him alive, even though he was clearly too weak to lift himself up. The princess quickly picked up the magic mallet that the Oni had spit up, recognizing it for its ability to grant wishes. She lifted it up to her chest and silently made a wish while holding Issun in her other hand. Then she swung the mallet to the ground. Soon after, the princess opened her eyes and looked at Issun. The 1-inch young man started growing and growing and growing. Eventually, the princess had to place him on the ground where he continued to grow. He was a few inches taller than both the guards before he finally stopped growing. The princess was in complete shock, as was Issun, as they stared at one another. She ran over and hugged him. Later on their journey back home, the guards apologized to Issun for how they had treated him. "Just looking at that Oni, only twice my size, made me freeze in fear. You have lived your whole life with the courage to approach people who are the size of mountains compared to you." The once 1-inch warrior was now a great nobleman. Tales of his bravery spread far and wide, and he and the princess eventually married. And Issun moved his poor parents to his great home and took care of them for the rest of their days.